Hello, I'm Sean Gordon, Senior Developer Advocate at Tabular. 2022 has been an amazing year for Apache Iceberg. So I thought it'd be a great idea to talk to some Iceberg experts around the community to get their thoughts on it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Brian Olsen, Trino contributor and developer advocate for both Trino and Starburst. Welcome and thanks for meeting with me. I'm anxious to hear your thoughts on Iceberg in 2022.
Yeah, so Iceberg has historically been like this super integrated product with Trino. I was just talking to you a little bit about like we got like David Phillips was kind of the primary driver on the Trino side, but also Dane and Martine got some involvement in there, and they would literally like in Silicon Valley sit down with Ryan, Dan, and Parth at the time. He's since moved to Salesforce from Netflix, but it's all those three sitting down just like working on the connector for Iceberg. And so I just think about like that starting back in like, I don't know, 2018, 2019, when Iceberg was in such infancy into what it's grown to today. It's super cool to see kind of this becoming a big kind of core part of how we use data lakes in Trino. And so, if you went to the Trino Summit recently, like half the talks, if not more, were very centrally focused around how people using Trino are using Iceberg as their primary storage format, or at least migrating to. A big part was the migrating from Hive into migrating to Iceberg, and all the kind of synergy between. I hate to use synergy, but the kind of synergy between our two communities. It's really exciting to see, because people were saying like, well, we were checking out Iceberg, but then there was this feature we were missing, and then we stepped away from it for a second and came back 2 weeks later, and then it was done. And that's literally just the overlap of kind of everybody in the community, right? It's like and we have such a diverse crew, right? Like Iceberg has brought together all sorts of query engines like, Trino, Presto, Dremio, Spark. We're all kind of frenemies in this Iceberg community. And so it's like really cool to see, because it's like we all like, get that we're competing, but at this end of the day, like we're getting to this standardized spec on how we store data in a data lake. And there's like the openness and the core goals there are all the same, and we just want to ultimately like make engineers' lives like way simpler, right? And that's what Iceberg does. 2022 Iceberg was great. We're starting to see a lot more change around the catalogs. We see things like the REST catalog becoming a lot more kind of in the forefront, and basically the JDBC catalog is a pretty exciting deal, because at least from the Trino side, we're still seeing it from like a testing perspective, but seeing how do we get this to move into something more production ready is what I'm really excited to see, and really figuring out how do we replace Hive Metastore, because that's been one of those parts of Hive that have stuck around and really pushes people back on the, it really keeps the learning curve pretty high on, yet another service I have to run. And, it's this whole other, piece that I just want to have a query engine, and I want to have the storage. I'm really excited about seeing where we're going with catalogs and replacing the Hive Metastore in 2023, and just seeing in general, like different things that people are dreaming up, like Puffin format that came out of Trino, right? Yeah. So analytics getting faster. We don't want to just stop at like making it easier. We want to think about performance, and so replacing the actual file formats like Orc and Parquet with like Puffin is going to be something really interesting, and just kind of extends that whole model. And again, doing it with a spec that anybody can make their own implementation out of. I mean, this opens up a crap ton of opportunities to like different vendors that want to build on Iceberg now, Tabular and if another vendor wanted to come in that has an opposing type of format and maybe just wants to standardize on Iceberg, that vendor could then take the Iceberg spec and actually develop their own version of that, right?
Yeah.
It's so freaking open that it makes a lot of potential for future proofing, not only the formats that everybody's standardizing on, but it's future proofing like the momentum of the community, right? So that's just super, super exciting to me to see all of that come together in the Iceberg community. So
Dremio developer advocate Alex Merced, thank you for joining me to share your Iceberg insights.
Thank you for having me. This has been an exciting year in the Iceberg space, especially here at Dremio, with basically continuing to grow our Iceberg support. So basically, earlier in the year, we included Iceberg DML, so you're able to do updates, deletes, whatnot, all on your data lake and several different possible Iceberg catalogs. So you can work with your from Dremio, you can work with your data, whether it's in a Hive catalog, in an S3 catalog, in an AWS Glue catalog, and or in a Dremio Arctic catalog, which is also really exciting. This Nessie-based cloud service catalog. And essentially, what you can do with that is that now you can have your Iceberg tables and be able to use Git-like semantics, be able to like create a branch of your Iceberg table, merge your Iceberg table. So what you can do, and what's you can do uniquely with Iceberg tables, keeps expanding. And really, there's just every reason to be excited about the future of Iceberg in this space. And basically, Dremio is certainly expanding and giving everyone all the tools they need to be able to use Iceberg effectively and easily.
Sam Redai, Netflix software engineer and Iceberg contributor. I appreciate your time, and I'm anxiously awaiting your perspectives on Iceberg this past year.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. It's been really a phenomenal year for Iceberg. Last year, I think people knew what Iceberg was, especially at a lot of big companies that were using it, that were working with data at scale. But this year, support for Iceberg has just exploded. Started with I remember AWS says EMR added native support. It was also announced for Athena, BigQuery, Snowflake, most recently Tableau. I saw that with their engine. And the list keeps growing, right? It's been an overwhelmingly successful year for Iceberg, and it really set the stage for Iceberg to become the standard format for data warehouse tables. Another effort that's seen a lot of progress this year is the Python stuff. The reason why the Iceberg Python client is so important is that it opens the entire Python data ecosystem to the power of Iceberg tables. And so like the traditional, big data stack and the Python data community have always, there are some rough edges there, right? Mainly because the Java first philosophy of the space, and having a pure Python client for Iceberg really has the potential to get rid of sort of the awkward handoff that every organization does between your data warehouse and these highly custom ML type Python environments that enable your data science and analytics side of the organization. So having that Python client really allows first-class access to data in Iceberg tables without moving your data around. Yeah. And I think it's a great example of the theme of where Iceberg is going, right? The REST catalog is another big one. Really being an unopinionated sort of table format that provides you all of the things we used to enjoy about classic database technologies long ago for massive data at scale. All the features like rollback, compaction, all the maintenance stuff that you can do, but not having to compromise on sort of what type of storage you use, or what type of compute engine you use, or what language you use, or how you access your data, right? Like all of these, and that's really, I think, way back when Iceberg first started, I mean, the creators, it was great foresight to really think of Iceberg as a spec, right? It's a specification, and the implementations, if you follow that specification and you implement it that way, it really makes integrating Iceberg possible, right? It's a it's a hard thing to implement, right? You have to really understand it, and it's some fantastic engineers have been working in all these different communities to get that integration there. There are a lot that are happening now in the Python community. A lot of people in the Dask and Ray communities that are working with Faco and others in the Iceberg Python community to get that integrated. So it's not easy by any stretch, but I think that the fact that it's an open table, open source, the specification makes it transparent, right? And it's outlined there on what you need to support, what the data model is for metadata, how it's stored, what the different behaviors are. So I think it's really, it's really, this year has kind of shown what many people have always thought Iceberg could be. I think it's really been proven out this year by the incredible support, across the globe.
Co-creator of Iceberg, CEO and co-founder of Tabular, Ryan Blue, thank you for joining me to share your Iceberg 2022 insights.
Great to be here. I'm glad we're doing this. I think my highlights from this year are just the broad industry adoption that we've seen. It's been an incredible year with companies like Google and AWS and Snowflake coming out with pretty big announcements about their Iceberg support. So I don't think that Snowflake had announced last year, although it was sort of in the works. But we've gotten big announcements from all three of those. Of course, we continue to see a lot of investment from AWS in both Athena and EMR. We're seeing Dremio continue to support the project with their subsurface conference. Starburst has been contributing a lot lately and supporting the project as well. And then also, last but not least, Cloudera made a big announcement that they're basically going to try and move all of their customers over to the format in the next few years as well. So it seems like the initial goal that we had to make Iceberg the de facto standard for analytic data in the cloud is really coming true this year. So that's been a really fantastic development. The other thing that I would highlight is just all of the releases, the 1.0 milestone with a 1.1 coming out here pretty soon, probably in the next week or so, and all of the good stuff that's been coming out of the community this year. So we've got the REST catalog spec, which we're using to basically standardize how we talk to catalogs across different vendors and open source projects. So this is what we're working on with Snowflake and EMR and Athena and all of those players, basically standardizing how we talk to catalogs. Next, we're adding support for branching and tagging to the format. So you'll be able to tag versions and keep them around for a lot longer than your typical snapshot history, time travel to those versions, and even create like development branches of a table and things like that. So really excited about the new workflows that we're enabling with the format. And lastly, PyIceberg. So we started, I guess, I don't remember if it was late last year or early this year, we created an entirely new Python code base. We've since had our first Python release that can read and write metadata, interact with REST catalogs and Hive. The glue support just went in, and that has both a CLI where you can inspect tables and interact with catalogs, and we're also almost able to read. So I expect by the end of the year, an O.2 release where you'll be able to actually read and potentially even use things like DuckDB directly from Python without any JVM. So it's a really exciting time, and there's a lot going on in the format, in the project.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan, for your time.
Oh, no problem. This was fun.